in that area between 5th and 9th, essentially.
But that's the only reason I'm trying to figure. I mean, I can see that, but there's no other reason why it might not be considered.
At some point, but it's really not where they're going to try to connect areas of the city that aren't connected right now.
The road might be more narrow, actually.
Okay, Alex?
Is it?
So I've gotten an email from Darren Buck from VDOT, who's managing the projected Eastern Cycle Track project, and he apologizes for the confusion. He did note that VDOT will keep the record open for ANC 6E's recommendation so that we are able to have a formal presentation and potentially take an action related to presentation at our April meeting. So we don't need to take any action at this time in order to have ANC 6E's recommendations considered by DDOT.
I have written down everybody's comments that presented this evening, and if you are unable to be at our April meeting where someone will be here from DDOT, I will make sure that everyone who made a comment today, that their comments will be presented in writing to Mr. Buck, who will be coming from DDOT. So don't think time was wasted. It was not. We needed to hear all of your opinions, and I thank you very much for making them. Unfortunately, we will have to move on without a decision this evening. So we are at number 5 on our agenda, public space. Ryan with Shop.
Good evening, everybody.
Excuse my bad.
You can turn around more to them. We can still hear you.
Thanks for making time on the agenda for us tonight. Shook is a new quick service restaurant launching in the AMC building in Mount Vernon Triangle in about six weeks' time. You were kind enough to lend your support for an alcohol license several months back. I'm here tonight asking for your support in adding a small outdoor cafe to our restaurant. We have applied for a DDOT license for 12 seats. Communal seating, all 100% ADA compliant, looking to activate our business further as well as the block. I have plans here if you're interested.
12 seats isn't very much. And Shock, by the way, is in one of the 2 townhouses that is on K Street, where the new CVS just opened up in that building, the AAMC building. But it's in one of the 2 townhouses that's very small, and it is an Israeli
Middle
Eastern concept. So its seating of 12 would probably be what, 4 tables?
It's actually 2 physical tables that are communal, 2 long tables. That's it.
Okay.
Any questions that I can answer?
I don't think there's a problem. So
When do you plan to be open?
We're talking for May.
oh, great. I think I sent them to you by email. There is a Okay, this is in my single-member district, and so I am making a motion that we accept the application and support the application for public space for Shock to have its outdoor cafe in front of its little restaurant on K Street.
Second,
Any other questions?
probably better that we forward that recommendation to the Department of Transportation Public Space.
Right. Yes, that we will make sure that the Department of Transportation gets the okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so it's unanimous, 6-0-0.
Thank you very much for your support.
Thank you. Good luck. (1212) 4th Street.
Hi everyone, my name is Ajati Agboola. I'm with the firm of Griffin, Murphy, Moldenhauer, and Wiggins, and I am here on behalf of 1212 through 1214 Street LLC. We were here last month to present a proposed project for 1212 through 1218 4th Street Northwest. At that time, we discussed the basics of the project, which are 22 units with underground parking, approximately 29 parking spaces, and a neighborhood servicing retail establishment. At the last meeting, there were many members of the community that wanted us to put in writing the proffers and the revisions that we've made over the course of many months as we prepare to go to the Board of Zoning Adjustment. Also, the Zoning Committee of ANC 6C requested that we specifically state a formula for how we would offer the excess parking that we're providing on site to those who live within 200 feet of the property. There was a particular comment from the audience that the formula that we had suggested really was complicated and difficult. I wanted to update the commission that, as you can see in the letter, we've revised that formula so that it's simple. Any excess parking spaces constructed on the site will be offered to those who live within 200 feet of the community at market rate minus 15%. We felt that that was far more, that was an easier formula for everyone to understand because anyone can figure out what market rate is, and then you take 15% off of that. We postponed our hearing, but now we are scheduled to appear before the BZA on March 15th. I will be submitting this letter along with additions to the board tonight as an addendum to our pre-hearing statement. We have proffered RPP restrictions so that the residents of this building will not be able to obtain residential parking permits. The community requested some stricter language regarding that proffer, and we have agreed to add that.
Yeah, that's what you were to.
So we understand that not everyone is pleased, but we really do believe that over the course of many months, we've been able to address many of the community's concerns and come to a compromise that we feel has made this project a better project. So just in summary, 1212 through 1218, 4th Street Northwest, proposed development, 22 dwelling units with a neighborhood servicing retail establishment and approximately 29 parking spaces. I did want to note, and I mentioned it last time, that we believe, and it is our analysis, that the neighborhood servicing retail establishment can be provided through a special exception. OP has indicated that they believe that it's a use variance. I would kindly ask that the ANC support it, whether it's a special exception or a use variance. We've indicated to the community that we would like it to be, or we're taking suggestions, but the community has noted that they would like something like a coffee shop or a dry cleaner, something small. As you can see in the plans, it's a very small space.
What is the square footage on the retail?
Let me check. 760. It's tiny. Just something that would be a benefit directly to the neighbors. It was one of the very first things that they requested when we initially presented our plans to them.
Rochelle?
All right. So I won't be long-winded about this because my constituents that are here, we have gone through, and I certainly understand what everyone has said. And I, thank my constituents, thank the representatives of the owner and the developer that we have come to this. There is clearly still division in the community. That is unfortunate, but as you know, with many of these larger projects, we cannot make everyone happy. But for what it is, we will be getting parking, which as you know, if you regularly attend these meetings, that is sometimes all we talk about, right? So, but I want to just for the record, to just state about the extra RPP,
Yes, please.
right?
Yeah.
So it would make the community much more comfortable to have more specifics about the RPP. So just to say, just verbally, so it's on record, that in addition to what is said in the letter from the applicant, The applicant condo board shall include in its condominium documentation a provision that prohibits tenants from obtaining a residential parking permit for the property from the DC Department of Motor Vehicles under penalty of what's changed, lease or
Yes, we'll change.
termination. The applicant condo board shall obtain written authorization from each owner, either through written documentation that allows the DMV to release the applicant any of all records that tenants requesting or receiving an RPP for the property. The applicant condo board shall monitor tenant compliance with the RPP lease restriction by requesting from the DMV every 6 months any and all records of residential tenants requesting or receiving RPPs for the subject property, and shall provide annually to the condominium board the result of its inquiries. The applicant condo shall record a covenant against the property among the land records of the District of Columbia, providing any leasee or owner of the property from obtaining an RPP for the building approved in this BZA order. Because that's going to be added to the letter from the lawyers that will be submitted tonight. Now, Marge. So we are going to submit our own documentation as ANC. So what I'm going to do is that we support the letter that is going to be submitted from the owner, the lawyers. But in addition to ours, that we add, because there are 2 things that they will not agree to, and as we would like it, but it's not going to happen. That there be a minimum amount of parking that be requested, right? Instead, it's kind of like approximately 29, right? We would like a minimum put in, so that would be in our letter from ANC 6E. And also the right of first refusal for the residents.
The 200-foot.
Or, I'm sorry, for the 200-foot radius. That would be in our letter, but it's, they will not, the lawyers will not put it in their letter. So there's our letter and their letter. Any questions? Do you understand that? You understand what I'm saying now?
Yeah, however, I think that we need to say what our bottom line number, minimum number of spaces is, because otherwise it's.
We would like to say 29.
Okay, so that
There
we
you go.
should say that our position is that there need to be
Yeah.
29 spaces.
Correct.
How many were you planning to put?
Approximately 29 spaces. The architect has informed us that the property can accommodate approximately 29 spaces. That is what we feel comfortable agreeing to. We don't want to state there will be exactly 29 spaces before a civil engineer has gone in and really looked at the property and said this is how many spaces. But a structural person has already been on site and said that we can accommodate an underground parking structure. And the configuration of parking spaces, according to the architect, will allow for approximately 29 spaces. Will it be 27 or will it be 31? I don't know. He doesn't know. That's why we said approximately 29. We understand that there are people in the community who would like a floor. And, you know, we completely understand that, but we don't want to commit to something and then not be able to deliver. And to be able to say approximately 29 spaces based off of what the architect has said is what we're comfortable stating to the community at this time.
Is it realistic to say 25, 29?
Well, here's the reason for saying that, and it's, you know, we do not know what's going to exactly happen once they start digging in this underground parking garage is actually completed. What the community does not want is, surprise, there's really only 12. You know, that is what we're trying to emphasize. So, because then I think that there is a trust issue, right? Am I being honest about this? So there is a trust issue because this is impactful to this corner so much. This is a higher density that they wanted. Because originally it was only supposed to be 11. The owner does not want 11 units anymore. And this is what elite, so if he wants the higher density, which will be 22 units, and he will be making a lot of money from these 22 units, that he has to accommodate the community and agreeing to, or at least in our letter, having a floor of 29 spots for us seems acceptable, in our letter, Marge, okay? All right.
You know, lots of things happen when you start building, and
That's what I'm concerned.
I'm concerned that we say 29, it's gotta be 29, and then when the building starts going up, it can't accommodate that. And I don't think we have or should have the right, if the property, once it's in, you know, I mean, yes, you're not gonna go with 11, you're not going with
How do
15,
you
you're
know
gonna
that,
try
Marge?
to make it as close to
You
29.
restrict the RFP though, right?
We are doing RFP. We are completely fine with having a covenant against the property for the RPP restriction. there will be no RPP at this property. However, when it comes to the parking garage, he wants to do an underground parking garage. He's contacted the people to make sure that's something that's financially feasible. But the configuration of the parking spaces within that garage space, we are not comfortable committing to exactly 29. Because what if there's 27? We don't want to lie and say, oh, you know, our whole project is a failure because now there's 27 spaces and 29. However, any excess spaces are going to be offered to those who live within 200 feet as illustrated. Now, this is an illustration. The names on this list could be different in 2 years because some of these people might move. But those people at a 15% discount market.
Okay, so why don't we have a couple of my constituents that are still here? Do you guys have a comment for the board?
Yeah, we're just trying to figure it out. A good question. So excess means what? In excess of the original occupant's desire to buy or lease?
As stated in the letter, excess from after the condominium owners have had a right to purchase excess spaces. So let's say there's 22 units. This is an example. 15 condo owners buy a parking space. After that, the excess spaces at the formula that we've stated would be offered to those that live within a 200-foot radius of the property.
For lease or sale?
Yeah, whatever it ends up being, the client does not know at this time. But whatever, it's the same whether it's lease or sale. It's 15% market rate.
Is there a limit on how many one unit owner can buy as far as parking spaces?
I don't think we've discussed that.
We're not gonna be able to do that.
It's just, because, I mean, I want to make a comment in general that until this afternoon, your language for RPP was not the language that's currently given to the commission, because Rachel and I had to be on the phone, and I was the one that suggested the language. I had to go to BZA, get an order to come up with those paragraphs, so.
That language is typical for a BZA order, so we didn't feel the need to proffer it, especially since we've been proffering for many months now that there will be an RPP restriction at this property. It was one of the very first things we agreed to. However, we are thankful and we appreciate the commissioner contacting us and asking us to add that. We've agreed to do that. It is no problem. And that language is going to be added to the letter and filed to the board tonight.
The other just more of a hypothetical, but still, because the agreement is not really solid, in my opinion. If there's no limit as how many one unit owner can buy, hypothetically, the owner can keep one, the smallest unit, and just buy up all the parking spaces under that unit, and there'll be no access. The other concern is that, yes, you are offering a market rate minus 15% for the 200 footers, but there is no right of first refusal. So you'll offer it to us for this minus 15, you'll put it in the market for market price. What makes you accept our offer? There'll be 15% less than a market rate offer.
All I can say is that,
assuming there'll even be access, considering you can just sit on them if there's no access.
there are a lot of hypotheticals and there are a lot of things that could happen, but we have been absolutely honest and forthright with the community and tried to address every concern that has been raised and what the zoning commission has raised. It is the client's intent, and his intent is going to be, it's in writing now, which it wasn't before at the last ANC meeting, and that is going to be a part of the record, and it will be included in the ANC's resolution. So all I can tell you is his intent, as I stated last time, is not to make this overfull parking for the convention center. It is specifically for those who, as illustrated, live within a 200-foot radius. It only behooves him to continue to work with the community. These are going to be your future neighbors. And Dr. Mackay is not interested in going back on his word. He's a forthright person. He's here tonight, and he has stated to us, and we've put it in writing, what his intent is for those excess parking spaces.
Yeah, nobody's accusing you of not being forthright or honest or any of that. The issue is that if it is agreed to, it needs to be in your letter. That means you have agreed to it. So if it's not in there, no matter how much we've discussed it, it's not agreed to as far as we're concerned, right?
No, as far as we are concerned, it is agreed to. It's stated in here that it outlines exactly how the excess parking spaces will be offered, and what I've heard.
Excuse me, but I beg to differ. I'm looking at this, and there is no clarity as to the process that will be used to offer those excess spaces to residents within the 200-foot radius. I mean, how are you going to distribute that offering so that, and how are you going to accept those offers when they come in? Is it going to be via email? Is it going to be via a hard copy of a signed offer of purchase? I'm very concerned that there's no specificity here about the mechanism for the offer and how offers are going to be accepted.
And that's what we're saying. We know you have much bigger things to worry about in this development project, but these details will matter for us. And so, for instance, do all of the condos have to be purchased before anybody, so what if it takes 3 years to fill the place? Is there nothing gonna be offered to the community in the meantime? I don't know, and it would be nice to know that at this stage.
Excuse me, I would think that no matter how long it takes to sell the condos, those folks have the right of first refusal for the parking spaces.
Absolutely.
If it takes 3 years, if it takes 3.5 years, they still get the right before it goes to be access for the community.
So maybe at least in the meantime, that could be, it would
Yeah,
just be nice to know.
And we don't know, because it could be leased in the meantime on a month-by-month basis. The ANC requested us to come, the zoning committee requested us to come up with a formula, and we did so. The ANC requested us to put everything we agreed to previously in writing, and we did so. The fine details of how this will be worked out, I don't know at this time, but I can tell.
We're talking 2 years down the road. I mean, it's going to be a while before they even.
But we do have a very good working relationship with the commissioner, and we will continue to work with the community to negotiate these fine details. But to talk about hypotheticals, at this point, we're not able to do that. But we have done what the commission has requested us to do previously.
Any other questions?
If I may just add, I just want to say that, Rochelle was on that email chain. We had about 20 recipients, there's about 20 emails exchanged, we received everything. And overwhelmingly, everybody said, we're not necessarily against the project. We just feel that there's so much vagueness in there that the general recommendation was that you postpone the vote. Just to say, listen, give us another month, and maybe we can work out the specifics, and then.
No, we've already postponed the hearing, and the board gave us a new hearing date, which was a week after the date we requested. At this time, we would like to proceed. We really have done we feel that we've done a lot that many developers do not do, going above and beyond providing an RPP restriction and having the stricter language in this letter. And we would kindly ask that the ANC vote on this matter tonight. And we will continue, you have party status. We will continue to work with you and other members of the community.
Michelle, we have to move on.
Okay,
let's go.
all right. So here's what I'm going to do. So there is the actual technical relief that they are receiving, which is actually not what we were talking about, so apparently. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to motion for the relief. I'm going to motion for the lawyer's letter, and I'm going to motion for the ANC letter, okay? Are we all ready? Okay. All right, so I ask that ANC 6E support the variance from the requirements regarding the lot occupancy and the lot occupancy to allow an expansion of an apartment house and a special exemption in or on or in the alternative if deemed by the board to be use variance to allow the conversion of an office use to a neighborhood retail or service establishment at 1212 to 1218 4th Street Northwest. And for that said, to be communicated in writing to the Board of Zoning and Adjustment of the District of Columbia and the District Department of Transportation. Is that everything included?
It was lot area and lot occupancy, but yes, that's
What is it?
lot area and lot occupancy.
Oh, okay. So regarding lot area and lot occupancy to allow the expansion of an apartment house. Okay. That's the official, what they officially want for their relief.
So you're making the motion?
Correct, yes ma'am.
So is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Nay.
Who's next?
Alex?
Oh, okay.
Okay, so it's 5, 1-0, Karen.
Okay.
With Alex being the nay. Okay. and
Okay, then there's the other motion, is I motion that AMC 6E support the letter from Giffen, Murphy, Mulhonder, and Wiggins LPP with the addition of the extra RPP request, which will be added this evening. Okay, do you have a second? Do I have a second?
I gotta think about that first. With the additional RP
With the additional, as I stated, with the additional RPP
restriction.
restrictions, correct.
Second.
Okay.
Second. I'm sorry, kid.
So that we motion to support the letter from Griffin, Murphy, Mulhender, and Wiggins with the addition for the extra RPP restrictions.
Why are we asking for RPP restrictions when they're building a parking lot?
No, it's,
Well, that's
Mark,
just-
we've just been talking about this.
So that they
Yeah.
won't, yes.
Yes,
So they won't park on the street, they will use the park.
and so.
And take up more of the community part of
Correct.
that, but the
This is
third
what
one
this,
that she's
okay,
gonna
this
go
has been all
for.
been about, March.
Yes, so the third one she's gonna vote on is that we do a restriction on
The
All right,
other-
let's go back.
29, so.
Okay,
I said that.
We have a second.
okay.
I said.
All in favor of preventing people from being able to get?
No, Marge, is that we support this letter, and with the addition of the addition RPP restrictions. Okay, this letter from the lawyers is gonna be submitted tonight to the BZA.
Okay. All, we have a second?
Question.
Yeah.
So are we saying that we are supporting restricting people who may move into their property but they can't park on the street?
Yes, that's the
all we're-
purpose, that's the
That's why I want to
purpose.
make sure we're clear.
That is the absolute purpose of restricting RPP. This is what we always
So
talk
make sure we're
about.
crystal clear.
Okay, we gotta move on, guys.
Okay.
We gotta run the rest of the meeting. So, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed?
Nay.
Nay. So how many nays do we have? We have 3 nays.
Rochelle, it's gonna be added.
Okay,
It
all right.
doesn't matter.
Okay,
We're
that's
good,
fine.
we're going to add it. We're not doing RPP. It's
So it's 3
fine.
in favor, 3 opposed.
Okay.
No other nays.
All right, so one more, Marge.
Wait a minute, who else was opposed? Marge, Alex, and...
Frank.
But the overall ANC is
Correct. And I got one more, Marge.
Well, wait.
You have to wait till she gets it down. This is getting, too bogged down. Let's get
No,
on.
it's not. This is their life, Marge. This is their community, and this is important to them. It is not bogged down. This is a big deal for this corner. All right? All right. Are we good, Karen?
Yes.
Okay. So the last one is I motion that AMC 6E, to include everything that we have discussed in the lawyer's letter, include that in our resolution. In addition, that we ask for a floor of 29 parking spaces to be in the garage and above garage, a total of 29, and that the residents in the 200-foot radius have, when they are offered, have the first right of refusal, right? Okay, to be added to our letter.
Seconded.
All in favor? Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Can I have that vote again? I'm sorry.
Ayes, the ayes.
Aye.
The ayes are 4
4 ayes
and 2 nays.
but
Frank.
you support it, but you want those 2 additional.
Correct, in our letter.
Okay,
That's right. In our letter, not your letter.
I know. But is the support
Okay, but moving
conditional
on.
those?
Next
No.
on the agenda is cloakroom.
Okay, goodbye. All right.
I don't think you're gonna need it, but,
Hello, my name is Jeff Utz. I'm with Goulston and Stores. We do land use law in the district that should look familiar to many of you. I've been in front of you all before.
We get a mic.
I'll get a mic, yeah. I'm trying to do without.
What's your name again? I'm sorry.
Jeff Utz, UTZ, Jeff Woodwilson in Stores. I apologize for my back. We are here tonight presenting another BZA case. It's BZA case 19215 for 470 to 476 K Street Northwest, the corner of 5th and K. Thank you very much for letting us come before you tonight. We went to the zoning committee last week and received a favorable outcome, so ultimately we're hoping to receive a favorable one tonight as well. For our request for roof structure relief. This all boils down to the technicalities of roof structure, built basically in a way that is intended to minimize the visual effect over a historic resource. In the historic district, this is right smack in the middle of the historic district, and this project is a reconstruction and renovation project of contributing building in the historic district. So the size of the project is pretty limited, especially compared to what else is around that particular intersection. It's 37 feet 2 inches is the max height of the building. It's about 2.8 FAR, so we're talking it's about 13,100 square feet in total. That's the whole project. So in this case, we're left with a really small roof plane on which to build a roof structure and basically put the mechanical equipment, elevator override, and then the stairwell needed for the building, but also to access the roof. So if we actually filed for a building permit in June of 2015, if that would have been issued prior to January 8th, we wouldn't have needed relief, but the zoning commission recently passed some zoning regulations that changed the roof structure regs, and we kind of got caught up in the mechanism of DCRA and the zoning regs. So we actually need relief now from something we didn't need relief for before. It's the setbacks from our two sidewalls, basically the neighbor 531 5th Street, and then 468 K Street, our immediate neighbors. There's a new regulation that says you have to set back 1-to-1 from an adjacent historic building that's not constructed to your height. It's a new concept. It wasn't there before. So we actually now kind of changing the tires on a car that's already going down the highway need to comply with that. So we're asking for relief from that. And then the other section is we need to ask for relief from a requirement to be no more than 20% deviate